Hola clase, bienvenidos. Hoy vamos a hablar más sobre el presente del subjuntivo. Okay, so today we're going to continue our discussion on present subjunctive. Okay, for the first part of your note guide, we're going to remind ourselves of the setup of subjunctive sentences. First, in subjunctive sentences, you will have the first subject and the indicative verb. That is your main clause. It will then be followed by K with another subject and the subjunctive verb. Okay, this part is called your subordinate clause. Okay, so let's look at this example sentence. We are happy that you can choose. The main clause, we are happy, that has emotion in it. Okay, and then there is a change in subject. We goes to you. So this will be a subjunctive sentence. For that, you're going to get nos alegramos que tú puedas escoger. Okay? Remember, when you're looking at a sentence deciding is it subjunctive or is it indicative, there are two things that you must consider. First, ask yourself, is the main clause verb weird? Okay? And secondly, is there a change in subject? If these two things are true, then you will use subjunctive in the subordinate clause. Okay, what happens if these things are not true? Well, if your main clause verb is not weird, then you will use the present tense in the subordinate clause. And if there is no change in subject, for example, I hope to visit my friends, then I will need to use an infinitive in the subordinate clause. Okay, so in my example, I hope to visit my friends. To visit is going to remain in the infinitive form. Okay, that was all just a quick review of things we already knew about the subjunctive. Okay, today we're going to focus on the E of our acronym WEIRD. Okay, that E is going to stand for emotion. Okay, and just a quick recap for you. Remember the whole idea of weird. That main clause verb must be weird in order for you to use subjunctive. Okay, so that main clause verb must have someone's wish or want, someone's emotion, an impersonal expression that contains wishes, wants, or emotions. It must have a request, or it must have a doubt or denial in it. Okay? If that main clause verb is not weird, it doesn't contain any of these things, then you can't use subjunctive at all in that sentence. Okay? So today, on the next part of your note guide, you're going to write down some of the E expressions, the emotion expressions, that are going to cause subjunctive. Okay, these verbs of emotion are as follows. Alegrarse de que, to be happy that. Enojarse que, to get angry or mad that. Estar contento que, to be happy that. Estar emocionado que, to be excited that. Notice that both of these show gender. Okay, so be aware. Number 5, estar triste que, to be sad that. Number 6, sorprenderse que, to be surprised that. Sentir que, to be sorry that. Temer que, to fear that. Tener celos de que, to be jealous that. Tener miedo de que, to be afraid that. Es sorprendente que, it is surprising that. Gustar que, to like it that. And encantar que, to love it that. Okay, so all of these expressions are expressions or verbs of emotion. And when you see these in the main clause and there's a change in subject in your sentence, you are going to use subjunctive in the subordinate clause. Do notice there on this section where you wrote down the meanings, I did give you a reminder on how gustar and encantar are conjugated. That is why there is little stars next to them. Remember that in the present tense, gustar and encantar, they are not normal verbs. Okay? They get an indirect object. So you have, for gustar, you have me gusta, te gusta, le gusta, nos gusta, les gusta. Okay? Same thing for encantar. You can see that there on your note guide I will address that more in class just to remind you. Okay? The rest of these verbs are conjugated normally in the indicative, okay, in the present tense. Okay, let's look at this example here at the bottom. At the bottom it says, we like that she is kind. Okay, so we like, that's an emotion, and there's a change in subject. We goes to she. So for that sentence, we do need subjunctive. Nos gusta que ella sea amable. Okay, lastly, don't forget that there are some verbs that cause indicative. Okay, these verbs are not weird. Okay, these are called verbs of certainty. Verbs of certainty do not cause subjunctive. Okay, they cause indicative instead. And for this unit, indicative will mean to you just use present tense. Over here on the left, you will see a column that says from last unit. These are verbs or expressions that we learned last unit that caused present tense. They caused indicative. Okay, they are verbs or expressions of certainty. They aren't weird in any way. There is no element of doubt or anything unknown. Okay. So over here on the right, you need to fill this out on your note guide. You need to fill out their translations, their meanings in English. Okay, but your first one, es verdad que means it is true that. Es cierto que, it means also it is true that. Okay, please note that es cierto que can also mean it is certain that. Es evidente que, it's evident that. Es obvio que, it's obvious that. No dudar que, to not doubt that. Okay, so if you're not doubting it, then you're certain. Okay, that's a verb of certainty. Indicar, to indicate. And decir, to say or to tell. Okay, so anytime you see any of these 13, okay, because we're going to count this one as 2, any of these 13 expressions in your main clause, you know that you will use indicative in your subordinate clause. Okay, so let's practice. Our directions here tell us, complete the sentence with the present tense, present subjunctive, or an infinitive. 1 asterisk will indicate that it's irregular in one or both tenses. 2 asterisks means, hey, don't forget, it's an irregular yo verb in the present tense. Let's do number 1 together. Número 1 dice, tengo miedo de que ella no hoy. That means I'm afraid that she's not gonna come today. Okay, so let's look at that sentence. I am afraid that she. Number 1, I'm afraid. Is that weird? Yes, it is. That's emotion. Number 2, does it have a change in subject? Yes, because I went to she. Okay, so you do need subjunctive for the verb venir. Its subjunctive form would be venga. Okay, please pause me and work through your next 6 questions. Okay, repasemos. Number 2, it's surprising that they act like heroes. That is subjunctive. Actúen. You're probably wondering, where did this accent come from? Okay, we'll talk more about this in class. Actuar, when you conjugate it, it's going to pick up an accent here on this U to help for pronunciation. Number 3, it's true that Anna appears in this film. Aparece. It is true. It's certain. That is a verb of certainty. Okay, so you have to use present tense here. Aparece. Number 4, I'm sorry that this concept is difficult. Siento que el concepto sea difícil. You do need subjunctive there. Number 5, Juan likes to read about politics. There is no change in subject here. There's no que, so you must use the infinitive form. A Juan le gusta leer. Number 6, it makes you angry that Sarah doesn't invite you to her party. You do need subjunctive here. Invite. And number 7, tiene celos de que yo no trabaje mañana. He or she is jealous that I'm not working tomorrow. You do need subjunctive there, trabaje. Okay, if you have any questions, any thoughts about today's video, please jot that down in your note guide. We will go over that first thing during our next class period. Okay, muchas gracias. Adiós.